folks. I think I am kicking us off first. So welcome to our presentation. We're the People's Plot and Southwestern Allotment Association. People's Plot is a group of keen Glasgow growers who, until very recently, had nowhere to grow. Our group is not even a year old yet, but we formed on the back of a GAF event that took place last October around accessing more land. So at this event, we realised that so many of us are in the same boat, facing the same issues when it comes to growing spaces. Most of us are on waiting lists, with eye-watering waiting times. Many of us live in tenements without adequate growing space, and all of us are super passionate about growing, but we had nowhere to grow. So we decided to exchange contact details, and we arranged a meeting in November 2020. And then after kind of chatting for a month or so, we formalised ourselves as the People's Plot, with the purpose of campaigning for greater access to growing space for people in and around Glasgow. We strongly believe that, if you want to grow, then you should be able to access land to do so. So we quickly went about setting up a website, which we can circulate after the presentation. And we got ourselves onto social media as well. Our Instagram, it's only about 6 months old, but we've got around 600 followers already, which is great. And I think it shows that the demand is clearly there, and other people feel similarly. Fast forward, rewind to January 2021, GAF asked us if we would be part of their FebFest panel discussion, which we accepted. And now I'll pass you over to Marie, who will explain a little bit about our involvement at FebFest and how that opened some doors for us.
Okay, so Southwestern Allotments attended FebFest. Myself and Doreen in particular attended quite a lot of the events, and in the course of our own presentation we were introduced to the People's Plot, and at the time I think there was 10 members in the kind of core group, and we were introduced to Ewan, who was giving a presentation also. So Doreen and I were really interested in learning more about the group, and we had an idea that we thought could be mutually beneficial. So basically, we had a full plot on our side that hadn't been managed at all for well over 10 years. It was completely overgrown and full of junk that had been brought in by a previous plot holder, and for some reason it had never been addressed by the then management committee. So a new management committee came in and decided that this was something we had to do because it was not only a terrible eyesore, but it was a health and safety risk. When the plot was eventually vacated, the future of that neglected growing space became the focus of our attention. A dangerous hut was dismantled and tons of rubbish was removed, and that caused us great financial expenditure. We put a plan in place for further clearance, but then COVID happened and everything was put on hold. So back to FebFest, and we learned that the People's Plot were receiving advice and guidance from GAF, and that they had members from all over the city, and that they were currently meeting via Zoom. So we felt that we could offer them what was a neglected growing space, and it would not only give them a physical location in which they could meet and organise, but it would create opportunities for us all to make new local connections through joint working and mutual learning. So we also thought that our association could further increase our community involvement, therefore really building our association, which is something that's really very dear to us. That in turn helped us with grant applications, as we have several plots out of commission due to flooding, and the soil structure is quite badly damaged by floodwater. So again, that would allow us to get funding that would allow us to care for the earth. So we took a proposal to the committee about bringing in the People's Plot, highlighting the benefits to us as well as an association, and it was accepted and agreed by the committee. So I'll hand you back to Ewan, I think, or not Ewan, I think, and you can carry on from there.
I think Ross.
It's actually Ross.
Oh, sorry, Ross. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No worries. First of all, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Alison Murray from Southwestern Allotment Association for designing our poster for us. You see on the screen there. So thank you very much to Alison for that. just continue with the story, really. So Ronnie and Marie met with Ewan to discuss the group's aims further. It was put to Ewan that Southwestern Allotments Association would offer us the vacant plot they had on the explicit understanding that the space was for the group and would only be available for the duration of the group's stated purpose. In addition, further support would be offered to the People's Plot via GAF, informal links with SWAA's supportive plot holders, and by establishing good working relationships with the site's committee. We would have a place in the committee and fully participate in committee meetings and work parties. We established a common understanding of how we could be mutually supportive, and that's when the People's Plot formally became part of the association from the start of April 2021. Despite the tons of rubbish that you've seen on the previous pictures already been removed from the site, a large amount of the debris still remains. Due to COVID, it's been impossible to get access to a skip to remove the rest of the rubbish. However, this will be done in the near future, hopefully. Despite this, we have established ourselves and made a great progress in clearing the site in preparation for cultivation. At the end of our first growing season, there has been plenty of evidence of cultivation taking place and plot management in operation. Now that we had a place to grow, our focus shifted to how we could involve the wider community in our activities. Given that given that we are the People's Plot, we wanted to make sure that people and community were able to participate. Ewan will now take over and tell you how we're going to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Ross. As Ross mentioned, given our name and our purpose, we were delighted to have a space to grow, but it was really important for us that this be open to the wider community and the wider group of people who are also keen to grow, and not just the people on our core group. Currently, I attend weekly workshops at New Victoria Gardens, which is organised through Urban Roots. We discussed this as a group, and we believe that this model of participation and learning can be brought to the People's Plot in association with Southwestern Allotment Association. So we're hoping to establish small workshop gardening groups to tend to the plot, grow and skill share. Obviously in line with relevant safe space policies and under supervision from members of the People's Plot core group, the workshops would allow people interested in growing to access the land, to learn new skills and get an insight into what it takes to manage a plot. It's proposed that the workshop groups consist of 5 or 6 individuals and would at the same time each week, with an additional fortnightly session reserved for maintenance of common areas as agreed with Southwestern Allotment Association. When we spoke to Marie and others on the committee, we were just chatting about how Southwestern Allotments have a lot of fairly large communal areas that need maintenance, and that they always need volunteers for the good of the association. And Ross, who's on our group, has kindly offered to coordinate and supervise people attending the workshops to undertake work in these communal areas. So we feel that will bring benefits not only to the individuals attending, but also to members within the association, and it'll help to develop those relationships with more experienced plot holders as well. So in terms of who would attend this, attendees would have the opportunity to sign up via the People's Plot website prior to each session. So the potential attendees would primarily would also come in part from wider membership of Southwestern Allotment Association and significantly people on their waiting list as well. Southwestern Allotments already keep in touch with people on their waiting list and inviting them to events pre-COVID. So we would hope that inviting them to workshops prior to the allocation of a plot, they can gain a realistic idea of the work involved in managing a plot. Some of the areas that we would kind of want to incorporate into these workshops, obviously I'd mentioned it would be good to kind of just give people a space to grow. But on top of that, we've got people within our core group who are more kind of specialist in some of the things that they do. So for instance, Rowan, who's here tonight, is part of Glasgow Seed Library and wants to be providing workshops on seed cultivation. Got Owen, who's another member of the People's Plot core group who intends to deliver DIY skills training sessions, so building sheds, shelters, things like that, and fruit tree grafting. We also have someone who's keen to do lunar gardening. So there's a lot of potential in this idea for skill sharing. our hope is essentially that we will give more people who currently have no access to growing space the opportunity to grow. And we've set ourselves high standards in being eco-friendly and caring for the earth by not using chemicals on the plot, such as pellets or sprays, where we've got agreements with local coffee shops for coffee using methods such as green manures to naturally improve the soil. If we're successful in this application, the group would use the funding to buy equipment for the workshops, so gloves, kneelers, tools, things like that, timber for planned community shed on the plot, potentially a locked storage facility for our plot. We currently don't have that, and possibly accessible raised beds for disabled members of the community to use. So that's me, and I'll pass you back to Marie.
Thanks, Ewan. So I think the what Ewan's talked about and the slides have really kind of indicated that the People's Plot have done a phenomenal job. Not only that, for us, we've now got several new members who are motivated and are actively working to increase growing spaces. The group definitely bring new energy and enthusiasm to our association, and their presence on our site is valued, and we've established really good working relationships. So the group provide a shared learning experience for us all and a common goal of working for the greater good. Just to finish, since joining us, the People's Plot have achieved a huge amount, as you can see. It hasn't always been plain sailing for them for reasons that we're not familiar with. A lack of time in the plot due to other personal priorities is one. And there's other things, there's been delays in being able to move forward with workshops, but that's been for reasons out with the group's control. However, what they've achieved so far is quite extraordinary, and we're really looking forward to the next stage of their development, and we'll support them fully. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, any questions for the group? That was really interesting, I think.
I've put into the chat that you can also type your questions there. So if you don't want to speak up on camera, find the chat button. You might have to tap your screen if you're on a mobile device to see it, and you can post questions there.
Question I'd like to put is, how is that linkage between what the People's Plot are doing and your waiting list working out? Are you getting responses there?
Do you want me to answer that? Yeah. Essentially, that's the next stage of development. When the group are ready to move forward and offer their workshops, I'll be contacting a manager waiting list. I've already passed the People's Plot's information on to everybody and encouraged them to join, encouraged them to look at what they're doing. And the next stage will be really starting to invite people to participate in workshops. It's good for us. We would maybe expect people to do that too, to increase their knowledge and understanding of what's involved in caring for a plot. So that's just kind of where we're at, is getting onto that next stage now.
No, because I find that a really interesting development, actually, something that maybe could be applied in quite a few areas of the city. Seems to me very practical sort of approach. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I think it was a great presentation. I was wondering about spreading the message, because actually what you're doing is taking a plot of derelict land, and this is really important in how you develop it and the problems you're faced. Yeah. Are you going to link that with Instagram as well? Because if you've got 600 people on Instagram, you've got an amazing audience there. So that was my first question. The second thing was building the shed. Is Owen going to do that on the plot? So you're going to have a shed and secure storage on the plot. And the raised beds, again, for disabled, will they be separate, or is this part of where you're going?
Yeah, definitely. We've been utilising our Instagram so far. That's kind of what it's been for. It's for, obviously, for people to find out about us as a group, but also for us to kind of just see the progress. So we've been uploading pictures when we've been going to the plot, which has been good. But we've also received quite a number of messages through our Instagram of people that are keen to get involved. So definitely we would be putting it out on our Instagram that we would be starting these workshop groups 100%. So with the community shed that we've been thinking about, already on the plot was a greenhouse, which we were lucky to get, but it's a little bit, it needs a bit of TLC. So our hope was that we could use these workshops to build with other extended members of the community, build a community shed for us to use on our plot as opposed to the whole site. And same with the raised beds, we would hope that we could build them on our plot.
Can I just add in there as well, Ewan, sorry, put my microphone down. That, see, for things like the raised beds for people with disabilities, obviously it's very important that we do that right and get advice on that. So we would seek advice from people like Glasgow Disability Alliance, who have got plots in various places in the city, and seek advice from them to make sure that is, proper and right, and even things just like, do we need to widen the doorway to our actual plot? Simple things like that we'll get advice on.
Yeah, great.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, surely, Angela.
How far away is your people's plot from the main gate? And just out of curiosity, on the allotment.
We've made the site accessible up to a point, in that we've got rubber matting down specifically to make it accessible for wheelchairs, and there is obviously a toilet that's an accessible toilet. That would be something that I think we would look at in conjunction with the people's plot to see if we were to extend that pathway further, or look at other ways of doing it. It might be that in the community garden, you had a bed in the community garden that you could use there, I think there's ways around that.
Yeah, it's a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think what we need to do is, we've had 3 really interesting presentations, I think, in 3 very different contexts. So really, we've come, Scott, to your bit, which is the voting, I think.
A poll will appear on your screen in a second. We've got 3 pots of money available. And usually there's a northwest area, a northeast area, and a southern area. But we had some withdrawals. So now that we have 3 pots of money and 3 people applying for them, it's just, do all of these presentations meet the criteria for the awards in the first place, which you would have been able to see on our website: caring for the earth, building the Allotment Association as a community, and making local connections. So that's really what the question is. Do you feel that each of these presentations does those things? Your answers can either be, as we said at the top of the meeting, yes with some of the recommendations brought up during the discussion, if there were any for that particular group, or no.
Where does the money come from?
Mainly from Potato Day.
Oh.
We raise funds. Glasgow Allotments Forum doesn't charge any subscriptions, but what it does do is it raises money through Potato Day, and this year through an online shop as well, and it did rather well this year. And we decided, as we had that we should make grants available for allotment sites, which is when we started offering the aiders. So they come up every year, and we invite people to apply for them. So that's sort of the background to it, Liz, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, it does. That's actually what I thought, but I didn't know.
Right,
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, are we ready to go?
I'll unmute myself first. Okay, I will click launch, and if nobody sees anything, then let me know and I'll figure out what went wrong. But here goes. The answers are anonymous too, so you don't need to worry about anyone coming back to ask you why you voted the way you voted. And the results are a resounding yes for everyone. So congratulations. If those of you who presented want to hang back, we can do a sort of an analysis afterwards and talk to you about next steps. That's my housekeeping stuff done too. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for cheering.
Okay, right. Well, thank you very much indeed, all of you, for attending. I think, again, it has been a most interesting evening. It's really inspiring, I think, to hear what people are trying to do and the new approaches that they're looking at. We wish you all, the successful presenters, the best of luck with it. We'll be calling on you to come back in November, not this November, but a year hence, and tell us what you got up to and show us what you got up to and what the outcomes were. So the very best of luck to all of you. And I'm delighted as well that people have got in touch tonight, and hopefully we'll be talking to each other in future, and sharing knowledge has come across as really important in this. So, yeah, congratulations to all of you, and good night, I think, from all of us.